Alrighty, so this is gonna be my first review. Today we're gonna be talking about the BaliKnives Telesto. So packaging comes with a Robbins knife sheath, which is pretty nice, pretty much the gold standard. JK Design also uses them, very similar sheath. When you open this up, mind the stuff in here did not come in here; it just came loose in the box, but fit it in here anyway. Save me some space. We open our roll and we have the Telesto, and you get a sample size of, I believe this is called, Honey, and his discount card. Before I start on the Telesto, packaging wise, I guess small bottle lube is nice, but anyone buying a $900 or $1,000 knife probably has their own lube. So far, I've only had, Honey in this Telesto. Not super impressed with it or anything like that. Didn't really stick out to me, none. And then, I already talked about the case. So the Telesto, I asked for mine, as raw as he would sell it. Definitely a very nice satin. Well, I guess it's more of a sheen finish, but very glossy. Blade is clean. Mine does have an edge on it. Get some of the dirt off. Mine does have an edge on it. The edge is pretty decent. Cuts through paper towels a little bit, but I'm sure it shaves through paper like nothing. Certainly shaved my leg like it's nothing. So out of the box, I have not messed with the screws. I've had this for about 6 hours now. Probably flipped it for 5 minutes out of that 6 hours. I got home, picked it up, went up to my room, made sure it was in here, and then just took a nap. So yeah, out of the box, there's a teeny tiny bit of wobble, but it's not even seen. It's something you have to feel. Swing certainly is swinging. And of course, there is no tap, as to be expected. Get up to the blade alignment. I didn't notice anything wrong with either side. Both well centered. Sure, it's not really showing up on camera super well. Trying to think what else. All right, so now we got the tolerances out of the way, edge out of the way. Tip is very tippy out of the box. Certainly wouldn't want to drop that on my foot. Talking about sharp edges though. So this is a raw one. I asked for it raw. Now, in my opinion, was this a little too raw? I do think so. The edges right here, where it kind of curves upwards, where the chamfer is ended, is extremely sharp. I don't know if you can hear that, but it catches my fingernail, and you can feel it when you flip. I mean, it's a very hard edge. One of these I was cutting paper with. And it was this edge right here. I was able to cut paper with it. Not super great out of the box. The other issue I had found is right along the top of my tip here is some machining mistake. I'll have a close-up picture that I'll throw in this video because you can't really see it here.
In this video here, you can see that top edge is a little messed up.
It's small, but not exactly happy that it's there. So my other beef with it is that somewhere on here, I think it's these edges, like on the top here, that come up to the top of the chamfer. Those are kind of sharp. Like I said though, it's raw. I asked for it raw. And to give this knife the best chance possible, I'm gonna go and refinish it, at least the handles. I'm not touching the blade, as I do like the blade finish as is. and it's not worth the hassle of trying to get rid of this little burr up here. But yeah, so here's, I guess, the final video. I think I'm gonna take another video in some better lighting, because this office lighting is okay. While it's in there, I'm probably gonna clean it out for lubricant and swap it over to my preferred lube, which is blue lube. So I'll be back in a minute with that. I guess if I'm taking it apart, might as well take it apart on camera. So we're gonna start with that. Screw wise, I probably should have talked about that earlier. He uses a tie connector, T15, pivot, and matching screw. I'm not a big fan of the tie connector hardware, as it tends to strip easily or snap. For example, all of OSP's screws, those are tie connector, and I have seen my fair share of matrices with like rep pivots in them because people snap the screws. All right, let's see. So I know the pivots are T15. I am not sure what the Zen pins are. My T8, start with a T9. All right. Yeah, we'll start with the Zens. So I believe the Zen pin is an 1/8 inch through and through. It's like a barrel with screws on each side. It's a solid construction, and if the screws go and meet in the middle, it's also a very solid construction, because it's almost solid at that. Like, it's literally filled at that point. We're gonna keep that over here. This is bottom. I like to organize my hardware by, this is the show side, so this would be the bottom, here's the top, and then keeping everything in line. That helps maintain tolerances in the long run. I will say, so far, kind of funky that one screw is real small and the other one's a little bit bigger, but I think it's just, the sides of the sex bolts are swapped or something like that. So nothing huge. Let's get out my T15. Screws come out nice and easy, so that's good. Like they should. I should probably swap my paper towel backdrop, because that's kind of gross. All right, clean paper towel this time. Or starting now. I can still, as I'm holding this, my finger's rubbing against that edge. It is sharp. Let's continue on taking this bad boy apart. So now, I don't know how easy the pivots are gonna slide in. I don't feel like marring it up too bad. Grab my punch. Probably one of the most overlooked tools for disassembling stuff. Just a good 1/8 inch punch. Sits at the bottom of the pivot, so you can apply tension straight to the pivot. Or not tension, but you can apply force straight to the pivot. That was the bite side. When it comes to construction, he runs a 280 bushing, which doesn't really affect you if you never plan on tuning it. And out of the box, you wouldn't need to tune it, hopefully. These are all tuned by hand by him, so, experience can vary. All right, making sure to maintain which way the washers were facing as I go. Pop that 1/8 inch sex bolt out as well. It's funky that screw isn't all the way in. That pushing out of there. And that's one handle. So next handle, same deal as before. So I use my fingers on each side of the handle to hold the washers in place. Stops you from dropping them as soon as the blade slides out and they don't have any tension on them. Goes on the bottom. Goes on the top. You know, now that I have it disassembled, I guess I can talk about the geometries and measurements. That's there. This over and damn, that bad boy's in there. Funky, funky, funky. All right, loosen that screw up. See if she wants to slide out now. Oh, yep, that's it. So that's weird. Haven't had a ton of experience with that happening before, where the screw is what's holding the Zen pin in, you know, from one side. All right, anyway, here is our disassembled Telesto. I'm gonna grab my calipers and we can get to the fun part, measuring. All right, got this bad boy zeroed in. I know my lens on it's cracked. These bad boys have seen a lot of use. They're my shop beater calipers. So handle construction. I measured this earlier. I believe it's 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch rectangle. Nothing special about it. Yep. If I can get this on the camera. Yep. 1/2 inch dead. Turn 90 degrees and 1/2 inch. Well, a little less than 1/2 inch. Overall length comes down to trying to roll this up. I get about, what does that say? 5.760 roughly. I'm still zeroed. And then blade stock thickness comes in at 127, which is slightly thicker than 1/8 inch. 1/8 inch is like rep. I think the Kraken's maybe 1/8 inch. Yeah, just about Kraken thickness. A lot of blades use 1/8 inch thick. So, handle geometry. So these handles are very, very thin, I guess. They don't really go out on this width spectrum like a lot of other Balis do. Here is probably one of my favorite knives, for example, my Monarch. Comparing the bottoms of the Monarch and the Telesto, you can see how blocky the Telesto is compared to other knives. Here is the Orca, once again for comparison. Orca and Monarch are very similar in size as well. Here is a closest thing I have to a stock rep. It's got JT scales on it. So it's about the thickness of a rep, or height-wise, thickness, but width, it's not as wide. At least I don't think so. I'll have to measure it. Yeah, measuring this has about another 50 thou on top of the Telesto handle. This here is a similar knife. Well, not similar knife, but a similar price range Grail. The ELB Pro Flipper V3. These things are known for being kind of big. I think it's really nicely sized. but you can see, you know, how blocky the Telesto is compared to kind of the roundness of this. We start getting to length. Now there's a good bit more lengthwise on these. These are known for being a little bit short. By that, I mean like, you know, 50 thou or maybe a 10, you know, 100 thou, something like that. They're not that short. Kraken wise, a lot of people own Kraken, so I'll compare it to that. Handle length, lining this up, it's a little bit longer than a Kraken from bottom to pivot. Blade length, this blade's definitely got more on it. Definitely significantly bigger. You can see there's probably an 1/8 inch towards the tip there on the blade. A little bit more, maybe a 1/4 inch. Not really a super science on that for measuring. All right, time to refinish. I think I'm going to, because of the hard edges on this, I'm probably going to blast them, and then I'll maybe throw a satin or buff them. I guess I'll just have to see how they come out of the cabinet.
This here is a video of the before blasting. Looks pretty sweet. This is just straight from Forest. Here it is after I've blasted it. I do prefer the blasted look a little bit more, and later I'll talk about how I basically deburred all of the edges on it.
All right, handles just came back from being blasted. I'm just cleaning up, making sure there ain't no media left on them or nothing like that. Edges, definitely a lot softer. No longer gonna, you know, give me a hard time. Make sure everything's clean on up on out of here. I know, crazy interesting stuff. Just wiping the inside of that. All right, that's pretty clean. I already wiped down all the inner surfaces with this non cloth-like rag. There we go. Start cleaning off the blade, hardware, all that. Get all the old lubricant out of it. I'm pretty happy with how the blast looks. I'm sure I'm going to be happy with how it feels. I found that while flipping it with the just completely raw off the mill finish, the flats were all very slippery, even though they didn't, you know, they looked like they had some machining marks to them. There was just no grip on them. And then the all of the edges were all very sharp. Clean that. Just making sure to thoroughly clean out all of the old lubricant. I don't know if Blue Lube's going to be better for this Bali or not. You know, some Balis definitely have a lube preference. Like my Orca is a fan of Blue Lube, or I use Sex Lube, but you know, that's a funny. Monarch doesn't get any lube. Kraken gets Blue Lube. Basically everything I own gets Blue Lube except for the ELB. It's kind of special. It also does not get any lubricant just because those IKBS gum up with any sort of lube. And it also makes the ELB less bouncy. All right, that's one. I'm probably going to fast forward through all this because this is some pretty boring stuff. I will say I find it weird that that washer is very dark. It looks kind of worn compared to the rest of them. Like I said, these washers have only had about 5 minutes put on them. So that one's kind of a weird one. compared to the rest. Got a second rub. Still dark. I will say that the pivots are not pivot, they are barrel with screw. So the screw just comes out of them. Not really opposed or pro to that. Doesn't really matter to me, none. Because I normally end up just sinking one screw down and then the other screw is what I mess with for tightening. All right. Start assembling. Gotta roll up my sleeves. It's kind of hot in here. All right. So, blues customer to start with the bite, as that's the first thing I took apart. Then I'm going to throw the Zen in there just so I don't have to worry about the handles hitting the blade. Save myself some energy. Energy, that's a merit badge. The Napa no longer offers. Only Napa boys will get that one. All right, Zen's in there. I didn't crank down on the Zen just because I want a little bit of flex near the top here for when I'm fighting the washers. I'm not sure if I'm going to need the pivot needle on this one or not, so let's see how this here goes. Try to keep myself in frame. There we go. Pivot in. This washer set. Boom. Got one handle down. Not crazy hard to assemble. There are knives that I've owned that have been substantially worse. Hear how dry it is. Still full swing. No tap, no nothing like that. That's good. Start the second handle, do the same thing. I still need to tighten the Zen on that one. Owning a T9 bit will save your life on multiple occasions when your T8 strips and that T9 just has a little more grip. A lot of screws say they're T8, but you can fit a T9 in them and you get more, I don't know what to call it, more lockup. You know, it grips in there better with the T9. So less likely to strip them. That being said, you should really never crank your tiny 2x56s because those bad boys have no care for not stripping or snapping. Definitely broken my fair pair of them, or fair set of them. I don't know. Fair amount of them. A lot of busted tiny screws. Try not to get diced by that edge. Pivot right in. And boom, sunk. You can hear it ring. I don't know if it picks up on camera as I screw this in. This thing does ring a lot. My bite is being a little picky, but to be expected, you know, no lubricant at all. Get those Zens tightened up. I will say I do prefer non-double-sided Zens, but sometimes, you know, you got what you got. And so completely dry. I think those handles look damn good with that blade. add a good bit of contrast. Get some lube in it. This bottle says that it's Tough Glide. I do not like Tough Glide. It smells really bad and it gets everywhere. This is just Blue Lube in a Tough Glide bottle because I really like the needle. Get that set up. Just a little bit. Really does not want to go back on. There we go. All right, working this lube in. I find it to be a little bit more bouncy as I do that. Of course, no tap or nothing. Full swing still. I would say there's less play now as I do not feel the handles move at all. Touch that pivot again. Yep, cranked it down. All I knew was a little bit of lube. I think it's still a tad bit dry, so let's throw a tiny bit more. You can over lube, and it'll get all over your Zens and nipples, and then, no good on that. There we go. Oh yeah, that's money. Immediately noticing that this here is not as sharp, feels a lot better. The inside of the channel isn't as sharp. All of these edges are not as sharp. That blast really did wonders. And I'd say it looks pretty damn good. Now, flipping. So this is all on bias and opinion. So take everything with a grain of salt, as my preference is different than others. So the Bali that I find closest to the Telesto, this is not a JK knife, is the Fellowship Blades Medusa. I've been overly critical about the Fellowship, his production. I find his knives good, but he just hasn't hit the money yet. This one rings as well. A little bit different on the construction. Press fit Zens instead of screw. Definitely prefer screw all the way. Tolerances, very similar. Not that people can really tell. This one here is neutral with maybe a slight hint of tip, like weight, being the main factor that you can feel. As you flip the Telesto, you won't really notice one spot being heavy, but the weight is distributed out throughout the handle very well. It's pretty nice. Now, measurement-wise, I believe the Medusa is a tiny bit thinner, like just a hair, but it's got that width. And I think that width really helps with Medusa. In my opinion, I would pick up the Medusa before the Telesto. They are both about the same length. They are on the longer side. Kraken shorter than both of them. That's saying something because the Krakens are known for being really damn long. The reason why I guess I'd pick the Medusa over the Telesto, even with a non-price point basis, these bad boys are like $900. This thing here you can pick up for $400, $500-ish. Is I guess just the handle geometry is really what gets me. These are just too thin in both dimensions. that rectangular, you know, construction where it's not, you know, symmetrical on both sides, that really helps with, you know, choker fans and other fans, along with just gripping it. Throw these bad boys open for perspective. I can get rid of this paper towel now. You know, they are aesthetically, I definitely prefer the Telesto. The Medusa, I do not really like the blade on it too much. We'll get a bit more into frame. Between the two, coming from tolerance wise, I have not really seen any Telestos with poor bushings, but I have certainly seen my fair share of Fellowship stuff with some funky bushings. Fellowship has gotten a lot better with his bushings. All the Medusas that I've handled haven't had any issues. So it was a Pit Viper thing. The Pit Viper was kind of funky because his first production model. Now, comparing the Telesto to other things, I got the Monarch in the similar price range. Calipers out of here. You know what? What about this bad boy? The scale. Everyone loves a good scale. Notice the Chinese Pless removed this cover before weighing. This is the G Dealer. I think I bought it off of Amazon for 10-ish bucks. So weighing in ounces, because you know, I don't speak stabbing each other. We've got 4.564 ounces, or 4.563 ounces. Make that a little bit better for lighting. On the Medusa, really 4.5 is definitely a good weight. The Telesto comes in at 4.75, so a tad bit heavier. And the Monarch comes in at 4.6, so the heaviest out of the three. I personally love the Monarch. Probably one of my favorite flippers. Other knives that I have, here is the ELB. This bad boy, I believe, is the lightest knife I own, coming in at 4.321 ounces. There. It's also one of the shorter knives I own. Here is the Kraken, probably one of the most common production knives out there, apart from the BRS Replicant. That's the closest knife I have to stock. 4.32, so about the same as my ELB. So what else do I need to cover? I don't really know what else there is to talk about on the Telesto from a technical standpoint. I guess, is it worth it to me? Coming through all of this, and I guess that's a hard question to answer. Overall, I think, so I bought this back in September. It just arrived today. It is currently, I believe, March 22nd, or maybe, no, it's April 22nd, my bad. So it took, you know, what is that? September, I ordered like September 2nd, so September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So it took about 8 months. 8 months and $900. Any of these other knives you can find on the secondary market, or, you know, buy them straight from the maker in some instances. The Monarch is everywhere. These two are very similar in price point. I would say these two are closer. The ELBs are a little bit harder to find, but not by much. Yeah. I guess going back to, is it worth it? I wouldn't say I would flip the Telesto very much at all. The bead blast certainly helps it. Just within a few minutes, I can already tell that I like it a lot more because of the bead blast, but it's hard to, you know, I waited so long for it, and at the end of the day, it's underwhelming. I've flipped the other production, his previous run from last year. Those ones were manufactured, I believe the handles were done by outsourcing, and the blades were done by JK. These are fully machined by MachineWise. Construction-wise, I didn't really notice anything. I know some people on the previous production have complained about this inside edge of the channel. I didn't notice anything on these. There is a slight like micro bevel, if you will, on those. so that's probably why. But when I handled the other two of them from the previous run, I didn't notice anything with that channel. And to be honest with you, I kind of like having some harder edges. Those are extremely hard. Those are sharp, not hard. Hard edges would be like the V1 Monarch, where it's got some grain or some spirit to it. You know, it's got some grit. But sound point, the Telesto, very ringy. I'm sure that definitely works for it. If you're a fan of longer knives and maybe thin ones as well, the Telesto is definitely for you if you can find one. On the secondary market, I've seen them up near $1,300. I've heard of them selling at over $2,000. Now, would I pay $2,000 for one of these? No. Would I pay 13? If this was the kind of ballad I like, this is the king of them. This is the king of thin and long. So if that was what I liked, I certainly would drop the money on it. I mean, this one's short and blocky. Spent $1,150 on this about, and I know they sell for about $900, so you know, $200 down the dump. These about $1,000, $1,100. I do like the Monarch. Going back to it, the handle geometry on the Monarch is a little more favorable to me. And these bad boys, these are really decent for the money. If you want a Telesto but you don't want to drop 13, this is probably the most similar thing you can find. It's not an exact copy, but it's very similar. So I guess that's my thoughts on the Telesto along with some work. Probably put a flipping clip or something in here on the end. But yeah, feel free to follow my Instagram at Cut My Finger, or not sure what the name of this YouTube channel is going to be yet because I still got to make it. And yeah, expect another review coming out. I'm probably going to talk about the V1 Monarch compared to the V2 because I think that's something that no one really talks about. Anyway, have a good rest of your day, y'all, and talk to you later.